Step into the unknown with Shadows of Curiosity, a podcast that ventures into fringe topics, unexplained phenomena, and the mysteries that live just beyond the edges of everyday understanding. Each episode peels back the layers of the strange and the hidden, inviting you to question, wonder, and explore. Have a story to share? Email shadowsofcuriosity@protonmail.com. In this episode, Jay shares his fascinating stories of UFO sightings and telepathic communication from ET ships, tales of abduction, participation in the secret space program, as well as the near-death experiences as a child that caused him to notice that he had what he calls a vessel occupied by a foreign, non-human intelligence.
Around the age of 4.5, which was in late 1956, early 1957, I had caught pneumonia by not listening to my mother. And anyways, I remember my mother waking me up because all I wanted to do was sleep when I had the pneumonia. And she didn't get me dressed, but she wrapped me in a blanket. And I remember my father coming into the bedroom, picking me up and carrying me out to the car. My mother was in front of us, and we got to the car, and my mother opened the passenger side of the door and got in, and my father handed me to my mother. Then I remember my father going to the driver's side of the car and getting in, putting a key in the ignition, which was on the dashboard back then, and started it up and put it in gear, and he started going out the driveway. Now our driveway was probably like 30, 40 yards from the road because our house sat back in quite a ways. Well, like I said, all I wanted to do was sleep, and before he even got to the end of the driveway, I fell asleep. Then the next thing I remember, I woke up, my mother was holding me over her left shoulder, and I can't remember if she was sitting or standing holding me. My father was to her left, and my head was on her left shoulder, and I was looking at my father, and it sounded like they was in a heated argument with a couple of people. And I turned my head to where I heard their voices, and I saw a man standing behind the desk. He was standing up, and he had a white lab coat on. Then I fell back asleep or passed out because I was so sick. Well, anyways, next thing I remember, I was preparing myself to leave the vessel, what I call my body. And the first thing I did is I disconnected my eyes from the vessel's eyes and pulled them back into my head of what I was. Then I exited my head out of the vessel's brain down through the throat, and I could see the throat, parts of the throat, Adam's apple, cords and stuff like that, and got into the chest. And I stopped there. Then I had to remove my part of what I was from the vessel's fingers, the hands, up through the arms, the elbows, to the shoulder, into the chest, the same way with the legs. And once I did that, I started to exit out through the chest, and as I was getting ready to go, I could see flesh, bone, skin, the blanket that was covering the vessel. And when I left, I didn't go straight up. I kind of went an angle towards the feet. Well, anyways, as I was going, I was really glad to be out of the vessel because the vessel was too small for me. I was cramped. I was really happy to be out of it. And when I got to the end of the bed, I was about, and then stopped, I was about, I'd say 3 feet above the footboard of the bed. And I knew somebody was supposed to be there to meet me, to guide me back to where my real home was. Well, they weren't there yet. So I just kind of like paused for a minute there waiting, and I started to remember things. I remember where I came from. I remember why I was here. I remembered I could shape shift into anything I wanted to look like. And I was seeing in a different way. I could see through the walls, the back of my bedroom. And I decided I was going to look around, but not leave, but stay there because I knew I had to wait for whoever was my co-partner to come get me, to guide me back. Well, I turned to my right, and as I turned to my right, I could see what I looked like. And it wasn't a human form. And as I was turning, I looked up, and I could see through the wall of the bedroom. And I could see outside. It was dark out because it was nighttime. So then I did a 90-degree turn to my left, and I could see a hutch, a cabinet there with dishes and stuff, but I could still see through that. I could see through the other part of the bedroom wall and a hallway, and then another wall, and I couldn't see past that. So now I did another 90-degree turn, which I would be facing the vessel. Anyways, I could see through the bedroom wall there at the head of the bed, and I could see a room, and I could see the furniture out there, and I could see another wall and a door. The door led to a porch. I could see through that, and I could see out into the porch, but I couldn't see out past that because it was too dark. So then I leaned forward and I saw the vessel. It had blankets that were all covered up. It was covered up to its neck. And its head was turned to its right, over its right shoulder, and I could see the mouth was open and the tongue sticking out of the mouth in the right hand corner of the mouth. And I knew the vessel was lifeless. I knew it had no life in it. But I had no feeling for it. No pity, no sorrow. It meant nothing to me. It was just a vessel that carried me. Then I remembered the vessel's parents, but I had no feelings for them or anything. They was just the vessel's parents. They meant nothing. So then I tilted back, and I did a 180, turned back to look back at the foot of the bed. Then there was a doorway there. And I knew that was the way home, my home. And there was a bright white light way back in the wherever it was, a room or whatever it was, but it didn't come all the way to the doorway, but it lit it up. Well, like I said, I knew that was the way home, so I started to move forward to go through it. And off to the right of the door, I saw like a little black dot, and I stopped my forward momentum to watch to see what this was. And as I was watching it, it was getting bigger, slowly but surely. It took quite a while for it to get up to almost to the doorway. But anyways, as it moved forward, I started to see a torso, arms and leg, and a head. And as it kept moving forward, it didn't have no feet. It was like floating in the air. And probably got like 20 feet, 30 feet to the doorway, and it stopped. And then as I'm looking at it, I didn't ask this question. I just thought it. I said, why am I being shown this image? Then I received the message through the whole part of what I was. And it said, so you will not be afraid. Then it said, you have to go back. Well, I didn't want to go back because the vessel, like I said, was too small for me, and I was very uncomfortable in it. And I was going to go through the doorway, so I started to move forward. It was like something grabbed me from every part around me of what I was, and it pushed me back into the vessel. And once I was back into the vessel started to wake up. Okay, now as I'm waking up, I remember seeing the image and the message, and out of the blue, I get a telepathic message telling me to sit up and eat the jar, take the jar, open it, and eat the whole thing. And I replied, I'm too sick. I'm too weak. I can't do it. And I get another telepathic message saying, through me, I will help you. And then I felt something enter my chest. Oh, I mean, my chest was hurting because my lungs were full of phlegm from pneumonia, and it even made it worse. But I sat right up. I mean, I didn't even use my arms to help myself get up. I just sat right up and took my right hand and reached over and got the jar from the table, my nightstand. And I can't remember if the jar was still in the box or if it was just sitting there. And I took it, and it was a brand new jar. It hadn't been opened, so the lid was on tight. I took my right hand and I opened it up with ease, got the lid on my nightstand table. I took my right index finger, I stuck it in the jar, and I stuck it in my mouth to eat it. And oh my God, it was the worst tasting stuff I ever had in my life. But I ate the whole jar. Then I set the jar down on my night table, and I went to lay back down, and I don't even remember putting my head on my pillow because I think I either passed out or blacked out from still being sick. Excuse me. And next thing I remember, my mother was shaking me violently, telling me, Junior, wake up. And I opened my eyes, but I wasn't fully awake, and plus I was still not sick. And she was asking me, did you eat that? How did you get it open? And she kept asking me over and over, did you eat it? Did you eat it? And I don't think I answered because I was so sick. Then she told me, you have to wake up because I have to change your pajamas and your bedding because you peed and pooped yourself. And I don't know, that was the last I remember until like maybe a couple of days later. Then I was feeling better. Well, after that, sometime later, I don't know if it was months or years or what, my parents sat me down because they wanted to talk to me, and they told me what took place. They told me about me being sick with pneumonia and taking me to the hospital. And I told them, yeah, I remember, bits and pieces of it and stuff. And they told me that, well, when I thought they was having an argument with the couple of people, they said that they was, because they wouldn't admit me into the hospital because they said I was too far gone. There was nothing I could do for me, so you just might as well take your son home and let him die at home with you. Because they said I had like a fever of 105, but they said the doctor said I was going to die. Well, I did die. So, anyways, time went on, and I didn't, as I got older, well, when I got about, I don't know, 7 or 9 years old, I think it was in 62, I was going to tell my mother about it. I drew a picture of the image I saw, which was an image of an extraterrestrial. Anyways, I drew the image, and I went to go to show her, and I get this soft voice in my head telling me, the time's not right. Not now. The time's not right. So I didn't show it to her. I just kept quiet. Well, anyways, as time went on, I forgot. Mostly I forgot about, forgot about it, but I never forgot about me dying and being out of the body. I didn't forget that. Well, anyways, in 69, I think we moved on a farm. Well, anyways, I was on a dairy farm. Anyways, in 1969, I had these 3 strange nights. I don't remember much of either of them. The second one, I don't remember nothing. But anyways, what happened was I had my bedtime. It was in the summertime, and it was warm out. It was towards the late part of June. Well, anyways, I had just turned 16, and the way I slept in my bed, I have to explain this so you understand why I slept this way. I had to sleep on my side, either my left or right, because when I was, I don't know, somewhere around between 10 and 12 years old, I had gotten a tumor in the back of my mouth and part of my throat, and I had to have it removed, and I had 100 stitches in my mouth and in the back of my throat. Anyways, my mouth would produce so much saliva that if I didn't lay on my side so it could run out of my mouth when I was sleeping, I would have drowned. So I had to learn how to sleep on my side. And even to this day, I still sleep on my sides now. Anyways, I had a thing when I got in bed. My light switch was on the wall, but I had to be out of bed to turn it off. So I'd turn it off and get in bed, and I'd lay on my back, and I would pick my legs up in the air, straight up, to pull all the blankets from out underneath the mattress and the box spring. That was kind of my thing. And anyways, I would do that, then roll over onto my side. I left my left side. I was laying on my left side. I'd put my left arm up under my pillow, and I slept. And if you moved my pillow, my head would be on my arm. Well, anyways, it only took me like a couple of seconds to fall asleep. Well, I fell asleep, and anyways, I started to wake up, and I was freezing cold, like I had been in a big meat freezer. And I know it was about somewhere around 3:30 in the morning. And when I first opened my eyes, I could swear I could see like my breath coming out of my mouth and nose because it was so cold. And I looked, and my bed was made perfect. I mean, it was all tucked in at the foot of the bed and all the way along the sides. My arms were on top of the blanket, my palms down, blankets over my chest. They was folded back about 5 to 6 inches. And I thought, what the hell? I sat up, and I felt my t-shirt was wet. So I took my hands, put them up to my chest, and grabbed my t-shirt, squeezed it, and pulled pulled it out from my chest. As I did that, I looked and I could see liquid, what looked like water, between my fingers, my thumb and my first index finger. And it kind of like, I was kind of stunned, shocked, and I let go, and the water from my hands, it like just jumped back into my t-shirt. And again, I said, what the hell? So I got out of bed, I took the t-shirt off, balled it up, threw it at the foot of my bed. Then I started to check things to see if they were wet. My underwear were bone dry. I was dry. My hair wasn't wet. I checked my pillow. That was dry. And my bedding was dry. I just went, what the hell? So I put a dry t-shirt on. Oh, and another thing, my light was on too. So I went and turned my light off. I got back in bed. Then I got called at 6 o'clock because I had help with milking by 6:30. And I just, during the morning there, milking, I just thought to myself, I must have had a dream that I just didn't remember anything about it. So about 2 days later, we was going to go bale hay. It was probably like, I don't know, 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. And it was after we got done milking, ate breakfast, and did the barn chores. Well, anyways, I was sitting in the back of the pickup truck on a tire in the back of our pickup. And out of the blue, I see this vision. I'm walking up this ramp. Well, I'm not walking up. I'm being made to walk up it. I feel something's controlling me. It's making me walk up the spiral ramp. And as I'm going, I thought I got kidnapped and I was in a grain bin. Because the ball wasn't flat. I could see it curving around in a circle. And I'm trying to look the best I can because I only move my head a little bit, my eyes, and I'm looking for like seams where the panels would come together. Well, I don't see nothing, and it's a bright silver or a bright chrome polished chrome looking. And I look down and up a little bit, and I can see it curves. Looking down, it kind of curves in, and at the top, it kind of curves in that way. And as I'm being made to walk up this ramp, I kind of look towards the center of the ramp, but I see all these different sized pipes, probably from a half inch to a foot or two bigger diameter. But they're not in the center of the ramp. They was off where as I was walking up the ramp to one side. Well, as I'm being made to walk, I can feel whatever controlling me. Its grip is loosening on me. I can start to move my body a little bit, and I stopped walking, and I could sense what it was thinking. It didn't want to be, this is my own word, my chaperone, it used a different word, and it wanted to be doing something else. It wanted to have its speech pop up on something. And I'm looking to my right because I'm trying to find out where I'm at. And I'm thinking, it's lazy. Then just as I was saying that, I see this thing. It's about, 3.5, 4 foot tall. At first I thought it was a child. Then as my eyes focused in on it, I noticed it was no child. It was kind of gray color, and it had a big head for its body, and almond-shaped eyes, and a tiny mouth, and the nose, like you could look straight into the nose, the nostrils. It wasn't like our nose. Well, it must have read my mind about being lazy and knowing I was looking at it because it looked up at me. Then it was black. That was the end of it. So I kind of flipped out. I didn't know what the hell was going on. I mean, I had no clue back then what aliens, extraterrestrials, or people being abducted by them. Well, I just said, well, it must have been part of my dream that I remembered. Well, so I left it there. I didn't say nothing to nobody because I thought everybody would think I was crazy, telling them what I saw. So I just kept it to myself. Well, a week later, exact same thing happened. The way my bed was made, being in the center of my bed, the blankets, everything, light being on. But after time, nothing happened. I mean, I don't remember anything. So I just kept telling myself, dreams I have, and I don't remember what they are. So another week goes by, same thing happens, but this time there's some things different. When I woke up, I had a feeling I had been in the military. And I had an awful feeling that I had killed. And I remembered I was in this tube. I was just in my underwear and my t-shirt. That's all I slept in. My arms are down on my side. And this tube, it kind of reminded me of a child's roller coaster. It had gentle curves to the left, right, up and down, but no set pattern. And it was clear I could see out of it, but there was white patches, and it reminded me of big white fluffy clouds in the sky. Well, and I was moving really fast in this tube. I mean, extremely fast. And when I looked out to my side, either side or up or down, I could see these long white lines, and I knew they were stars. I was moving so fast, it made them look like they were long. Then I was freezing cold, and I thought I was going to freeze to death. Before I got to wherever I was headed for, I was going to be frozen. Well, I don't know if I passed out or blacked out from being so cold. Then there was, after that night, well, during the day, I wanted to salute everybody. When somebody said something to me, I wanted to salute them. I couldn't figure out what the hell is going on. What's wrong with me? Well, after that, I just talked myself into I was having dreams, and I didn't give it much more thought on it. And that was in 1969. So jumping forward to 1972, I was dating this girl. Well, we had gone to a late showing of a movie that she wanted to see. It was on a Saturday night because it was my turn to have a Sunday off, and it was pretty early in the morning, maybe 2:30, something like that. Well, anyways, because I lived on a farm, of course, I lived in the country. She lived in the country. Well, I took her home, what I call the back way to her house, home. Went up this road. It was kind of like it was eastbound road. And anyways, I turned on the road that she lived on, the other end of it. This road, it was up a mountain. Well, anyways, going up it. You didn't drive very fast. You didn't do much more than 20, 30 mile an hour. Well, as we got to the top of it, but it wasn't actually the top of the mountain. It was off to the side a little bit. It kind of come to the top of that and started back down. The road kind of turned to the left and back to the right and down, and you went so far, and there was a mile and a half of the road was flat and straight. Well, I got to that part, and I was probably only doing maybe 20 miles an hour, if that. I felt a tap on my left shoulder. The first thing that popped in my mind, I thought, oh, must be somebody got in my car when we was at the theater. So I went to turn to look to my left, to look in the back of my car, back seat. Well, I noticed a bright light up in the sky, and that was off to the west. Well, we had a small airport, and I thought it was an airplane coming into land. Well, I kept looking behind me, and I didn't see nothing, so I turned back around my head, and I still noticed out my window the light there. So I had to I couldn't watch it because I had to watch where I was going, so I didn't drive off the road. and I told my date, I said, there must be an airplane coming in to land at the airport. And I thought, well, I didn't think I remembered. Well, our airport shut down at 9 o'clock at night. It was such a small airport. I mean, jets, big jets couldn't land there. It was so small. It was just mostly props, corporate jets that came there. And anyways, I stopped the car, turned it off. We got out, went to the front of the car. Now, the light is still to our west. We're looking north, and that's coming from the west. Well, it was quite a big light, but you could tell it was way up in the sky. I mean, it could have been up as far as maybe where the ISS is, or maybe farther. That's how high up it was. And I couldn't tell you how fast it was moving, because no way to judge speed like that, something up that high. Well, anyways, it got to about maybe a 15-degree angle in front of us, maybe 20 degrees. And without slowing down or stopping, it did a perfectly 90-degree slide north. And I knew it wasn't no aircraft from Earth. And as it goes, it went through the size of maybe where it was the size of a ping pong ball. We could barely see it. We could see it good enough. And without even stopping, it reversed and came on the same path it went north. Well, as it got closer to us, we both received a telepathic message. It said, "We're not interested in you." And we looked at each other, and I thought they must mean me and her. And I said, well, okay, maybe we're not interesting enough for them. Anyways, it passed right over our head, going south. It went the same distance. It got about the same size and headed back. Now, we got another message saying that they were not interested in our planet. And when I heard that, I knew they wasn't talking about me and her, but they was referring to all humans. Well, anyways, as it gets close to where it did that 90-degree slide now north, when it got there, just before it got there, we received another message that says, watch what we can do. And we just kept staring at it because we knew something was going to happen. Well, anyways, we're got into the 90-degree turn north, stopped dead in its tracks, I mean, without even slowing down. And it took off so fast, I mean, if you would have blinked your eyes, you would have lost it just like that. I mean, it was, you couldn't, if you had a camera in your hand and you knew when it was going to take off, you couldn't, your reaction to click the button, you wouldn't have got a picture of it. I mean, we never seen anything fly that fast. Well, she turned and looked at me. She says, "What was that? Who was talking to us?" And now I didn't know much about UFOs or anything like that, but I do just like that. I said, "There's a spacecraft from another planet." They were telepathic messages. Then it triggered something in my mind. I said, "Why did I know them answers?" Then it made me think about back in 1969, those dreams that I thought I was having weren't dreams, but they were abductions. I was being abducted. So I didn't know who to turn to or where to find help, find out about it. So anyways, and that happened in the fall, probably close to Halloween or maybe a little after Halloween. So after that, I kind of was trying to look for things about abductions and stuff. I seen people claiming in magazines like National Enquirer, and I think it was Star, something like that, magazines in the grocery stores, people claiming to be abducted and stuff. And I just seeing extraterrestrials, and I don't know, I just kind of shrugged my thing. I said, nah, that can't be what happened. So anyways, 75, got married, started family right away. And as time went on, well, in the 80s, I started seeing pictures a lot about the moon landings and stuff like that. And I said, I know stuff about the moon. I know the color of it. It's got 3 colors. But how would I know it has three colors? It has I call it like an antique white, off-white, light gray color, and orange color. And then back in the late 80s, Ronald Reagan was giving a speech at the UN, and he was talking about aliens came to invade Earth, that Russia and other countries like China and stuff, we would all band together to defend them off. And then it triggered something else. I know something about that alien. And from that time on, I started trying to find out everything I could, watch TV. And that's something, growing up, I didn't watch TV. About the only time we watched TV was on Sunday nights for maybe 2 hours. Other than that, we was outdoors doing something or had to work. And so through the 90s, late 90s, I started seeing stuff, on TV, because I started watching more TV. I could see in the news, see if I could find anything. Well, I wasn't finding anything that related to me. Well, in 2000, my wife and I, we decided to part ways. And then I think it was in 2002. Well, when we parted ways, got divorced, I kept our house we had. Anyways, I had a whole month of this happen to me. I was sold my house, and I was gonna move to I think it was Texas with my boy. I was gonna go down there and visit him for a while. Well, anyways, I thought I had developed what they call sleep paralysis, because every night I would go to bed, it was like something was holding me down. I couldn't move, but I wasn't asleep, but I wasn't all the way awake. And each night it would get a little different. Like I was on a table, I was being held down, and to my shoulders and my legs, it was halfway between my knee and my ankles, out so far, these objects would appear. They look like dominoes standing on end. And they would move forward, like all four of them together at the same time, would move forward a little bit. Then another one would appear, and another one as they kept moving towards me. Well, I was trying to fight to get loose from whatever was holding me on this table. Well, anyways, they would never, at first, they never come up close to me because I would fight loose and get wide awake. Well, as time went on, they kept getting closer. Well, one would be up by my left shoulder, my right shoulder, and between my knees and my ankles. And as the first one would get there and stop, the one behind it would go into it, make it one object and more. And as each one kept going into it, they started to make a shape. Well, it never made a shape, and this went on for, like I said, almost a month. Well, it was on a Friday night. I says, it happened again, and I said, I can't take this no more. I said, I'm losing it. I've lost my sanity. I'm going crazy. So I said, I knew this psychiatrist, not personally, but I knew it. I was going to call him, but his office was closed on the weekend. So I said I'd call him Monday morning, first thing, so I can go in and see him, see if we can get these straightened out, whatever the problem is, sleep paralysis or whatever it is. Well, anyway, Saturday came, same thing that night. I go to sleep and same problem. Well, I got up the next day, Sunday, I thought of something. I said, well, I'm just going to lay there, let them do what they're going to do to me. I'm not going to fight it. I'm just going to lay there and see it. Well, Sunday night I went to bed, and as soon as I started to fall asleep, same thing. Me being on the table, felt down. This time it's a little bit different. I'm picking my head up and looking. I'm thinking I'm wounded. I thought to myself, why am I thinking I'm wounded? And I remembered I was in a battle. And now I'm trying not to fight to break free. And also, I'm fighting not to fight, just to lay there and let it happen. Well, I finally got it, so I just was laying there not fighting it. Well, these objects came all the way up, and they all went into one, and the shape comes. It was four of the same things that I seen that one night when I was walking up that ramp, and I looked across the ramp. Little gray person with a big head, almond-shaped eyes and stuff. The ones at my shoulders, they had their hands on my shoulders, my elbows, my hands were flat on the table, palms down. They was pushing down on me, holding me. Then the ones at my legs, like I said, they were like halfway between my knees, my ankles. They had put their hand, each one above, not on my knee, but just above it, and pushed down there and held my ankles. I couldn't move, pick my legs up because I'm pushing down on just above my knees. But I'm still looking, wondering. I'm looking to see, picking my head up where I got wounded. I don't remember getting wounded. And anyways, there was a big light way up high above me. And it reminded me of being in a hospital room, operating room. Well, anyways, as I'm looking up to the left, I see something come out of the dark into the light. There's this tall, great alien, probably anywhere from 8 to 10 foot tall. As I'm looking at it, I said, oh my God, it was the extraterrestrial I was shown when I was a child. He told, so you will not be afraid. I couldn't believe it. Comes up to me about to where my waist was. It took its left hand, put it on my chest, just below my sternum, and its fingers came all the way up to my throat, almost to my Adam's apple. Then with its right hand, it reached up and grabbed something. I couldn't see what it was because of the light, but I could see better up in the light because its head was blocking the light. Well, as it pulled it down towards me, I can see it looks like a big syringe, big round. As it pulling it down, I see a needle at the end of it, and it's coming right from my right eye. And I thought, oh my God, it's going to stick me in the eye. And I'm kind of like preparing myself because I know it's going to hurt like hell if it sticks me in the eye with it. Well, it's getting closer. I can see there's no point on it. It's blunt, it's kind of round, it's tipped, and it's pretty good size. And as it gets closer, it's not coming towards my eyes, but towards the corner of my right eye and the bridge of my nose, about halfway up my forehead, it touches me with it. And for a minute, it was like I blacked out, but I was awake. And all of a sudden, it was like an avalanche of information coming from me. And there was so much information, my mind couldn't catch it all. But I got a lot of it. I remembered what happened in all 3 abductions and what they did to me. Well, the first abduction, they took me to the moon. Backside of the moon, it was night, it was dark, and I remember walking down the ramp of the ship onto the moon. Now, I know what you're going to say. How did I walk up down the ramp on the moon? Well, I was in a spacesuit. I walked down the ramp, and I stepped off the ramp into the moon's surface. Now, I'm not walking freely. I have a chaperone, as I call them. They're making me walk. And I stepped down into the moon's surface, just like stepping in flour, walking in flour. I sunk down, and I moved my feet, shuffled them back left and right, and I could see myself sinking down on the moon's surface. Now, that's where I knew the color of the moon. That's when I saw the white, the gray, and orange color, iron. So as I'm standing there, I look out, and I can see next to a crater. It was pretty big and deep. Well, as I'm looking out there, I look down into the crater. I can see some lights. I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 lights. 2 of them are flashing down the side of these building, shining onto another smaller building. There was like maybe 2 or 3 tall buildings, maybe 4 or 5 stories high compared to these low buildings. And I'm standing there. I looked up and I could see the ship, like the leading edge of it. And it definitely was a saucer-shaped craft. And I kind of like, after that, I blacked out. And I remember I was down in the crater. I was walking up to the building that was to my left. What they were quantum huts. They looked like quantum huts. There was light flashing down. There was a platform. Telepathically, I was told to get onto the platform and go through the doors. And as I went through the doors, I was told, stop. Don't go through the other set of doors. And the doors behind us closed, and this steam mist came down onto us. It probably lasted like maybe 30, 45 seconds. Then it stopped, and then I got the message, don't go through the doors again until it clears. Then probably maybe 30 seconds, the mist and the steam cleared. And when I walked through the door, I went and it told me turn to my left and go into the room. Well, I go through the doors, go to the room. There's a man standing there. Now, I take it he was human. He told me to sit down on this, like it was a bed, like you go into a doctor's office, sit on that. And he started to unhook hoses from my helmet, from my spacesuit, and other stuff. He took my helmet off, and he said he'd help me out of my suit, and he helped me out of my suit, and he hung that all up. And he took a clipboard, and he put some papers on it, and I can't remember if he wrote anything, but I think he checked some things off. And he folded up told me to take off my t-shirt and underwear. I was standing in the bear, and he picked up it was a hospital gown, just like a hospital gown. Told me put it on, help me on. He told me turn around, and he tied it in the back, and he had me turn around, took the clipboard, put my folded t-shirt underwear on there, and he put some other stuff on there. I think it was more gowns. And he told me, he says, go out and go to your left. He says, go down to the other doors. There'll be another gentleman down there, and he'll take care of you. So I go out. Of course, my chaperone is with me, and I start walking down that way, and I can tell this quantum hut. Well, its color is the same color as the moon. And I'm looking to see if there's any windows so I can see out. And as I'm walking, I'm looking up, and I can see right through the building, the roof part of it. It wasn't a straight line. It was kind of off to my right, but it looked like a snake going. And I could see out. I could see stars. And I could see it was night. And so, anyways, I got down where that other man was, and he told me to come in and have a seat, and he took my clipboard and clothes that was on it, and he took the clothes off, and he filled out a couple, 3 sheets of paper and checked things off. And then he put the stuff back onto the clipboard and handed it to me, and he says, go through the doors. He says, go to your right and go through the next set of doors. Well, that was going into the other quantum hut. So I went there. I remember the doors opening up, and I just started to go through them. Then I don't remember anything after that. So now, the second time they took me to out in space, far out in space. Now, this also extraterrestrial. Well, he told me I was being given a test for fear. This also was the same extraterrestrial that I was shown the image of and seeing that touched my head with that instrument. Very tall. Now, how it happened was, started to open my eyes up real slow. And the first thing, it's not a telepathic, it's more than a telepathic message. I mean, I could feel it in my head. It says to me, you're forbidden to turn around and look at them. And as I get my eyes wide open, I'm seeing with two sets of eyes. I'm seeing with my own eyes, and I'm seeing with its eyes. And I can see it. And it was the terrestrial that I was shown when I was 4.5 years old and out of the body. Exact same thing. Anyways, after hearing that message about I was forbidden to turn around to look at them, I kept going in my head, who is them? Why can't I look at them? Who is them? Well, anyways, as I'm looking around to see where I'm at, and I'm in this room, and of course the wall is curved left and right and down, not so much up because I think I was more in the saucer, I was more at the top of it. Well, anyways, I'm looking, I see a window, but it's not a window. I'm just like looking through the wall. I can see it's black out. I don't see no light. It's just pure black. And I know where I'm at. And I look off to my left and down, and I see a planet. Now, it's only somewhere between the size of a soccer ball and a basketball. I know it's Earth. It's the most beautifulest thing I'd ever seen in my life. And I still remember seeing it to this day. And as I'm looking at it, I realize just how alone we are in space and how black space is. And that's when he tells me, he says, these 5 beings, they want to see your reaction knowing that you're out in space and know that you're not on your planet. But then I keep asking myself, they're thinking, why can't I see them? Why can't I look at them? Then it told me it was 5 beings. They wanted to see my reaction and know my reaction if I was faking it or not by this thing having its mind and my mind together. And I said it was 5 extraterrestrials watching and 1 human military officer, which he would end up being my OC. So that was the second time I got abducted. Now, the third time I was taken to Mars, to an underground base. Now, as I'm walking down the ramp, now I don't have a space suit on. I'm just in my underwear and t-shirt. As I'm walking down it, I know it's in a big cave. And it don't look like it's natural, it looks like it's been made. And off to my left, I see a bunch of people lined up next to the wall. It was lined up like they was military inspection. And there's a man in front of them pacing back and forth, looking at him. And as he comes back, it would be his left coming back, he looks at me. Then he turns around and he says, "Welcome to Mars. You're in an underground base." He says, "You have been drafted into the secret space program, and it's called the Secret Space Force." And he continues to say, "Now, you don't have to worry. You're going to be here for a while, and you don't have to worry." And I thought, he said, "You won't be missed." That's what he said. "You're going to be here for a while. Don't worry. You won't be missed." And I thought to myself, the hell I won't be missed when I get called at 6 o'clock in the morning to get up, go help with milk, and I'm not there. Somebody's going to come looking for me. And that was what happened in my three abductions. Now, on Mars, I spent roughly 10 years there, and I spent almost, well, not me, we spent almost 10 years there, and we spent almost 1 year traveling out of our solar system, and almost a year traveling back to our solar system. Now, I can't tell you all the briefings because, we had briefing every day, and a lot of them was about things we didn't do right, things we did right, so on and so forth. I remember, but I'll tell you, 3 briefings, main ones, I call them. First one was like, it was a day or maybe 2 days after we were there. We had the briefing, and our commanding officer told us that we would be working with extraterrestrials from 4 other different planets. And why we was, because this one group of aliens, they were going to invade 5 planets, and Earth was the 3rd planet on the list of 5. Now, I saw the list of 5. I can't name the names of them because the planets' names were not in English. But anyways, he told us our mission was to stop what he called the advanced group that was going to infiltrate the military or whatever means they had of protecting their planet and the government. So when they did invade, they was going to convince the governments or ruling powers, as we said too, that there was no invasion. They would just come and show them what they could do, but it was a trap. And we would be working with these group of 5. Now, as far as I know, well, he told us back when I first got off the ship, there was one thing I didn't mention. He told us they had one mission for us and one mission only. Now, in this briefing, he told us we would be using technology weapon from this group of 5 extraterrestrials, and we would be using spacesuits that they designed for us. And all of us were 16 years old, and they told us the weapons that we would be using, there was something about the human brain at 16 years old, the weapons would only work with. If you was 14, 20, they wouldn't work. You had to be 16 years old. Now, the group, the aliens, we wasn't going to encounter the main group of these extraterrestrials that were going to invade. They was going to come in 2 stages. They had what they called the advanced group, which was the ones I told about, the advanced group for the find out how to protect their planet and stuff like that, and the government. Now, that was our mission, was to stop that group, because then it was a blown mission for them, because they when they went, they wouldn't know what kind of protection weapons they had. So that was our mission, stop them. Now, these other 4 planets, there was 20 from Earth and 20 from each of the 4 planets to make 100 of us. And that was what our mission was, to stop that group. Now, to use the weapon, it wasn't easy to use, to learn how to use it. It gave you awful headaches. Day after day, we would have terrible headaches, splitting headaches, trying to learn how to use them. Eventually, we learned how to use them. And the spacesuits had microphones built into them, the mic, but it would translate, like I spoke in English, but the other extraterrestrials would understand me because it would translate it into their language. And same when they talk, it would translate it into English for us 20 English speaking people. Now, what else? Now, and also we was told in that first briefing that we was not to take any prisoners. We was to kill every last one of them, every one of them. And it was very critical that none of them broke through the line because they could shapeshift. And they could shapeshift and look like any one of us 5 that were working together, and that would spell disaster for us. Anyways, and but the spacesuit, now, we were also told that we had to shoot them twice. Now, this weapon we was using, we were told was a plasma rifle. Now, it didn't have a trigger. You had to use your mind to fire it. Now, it was, like I said, he said we had to shoot him twice, but in the face twice. Now, we never asked why we had to shoot him twice in the face, but that's what he told us. We listened to what he said. When we finally did encounter him, I found out why we had to shoot him in the face twice. One was to break the shield they had on because they was in a spacesuit themselves with a helmet and stuff. Had to break that, then we shot him in the face. Now, when that plasma ball hit him in the face, best way I can explain it is, well, if you've ever seen a plasma ball and you put your hand on it, how the plasma comes to the electricity comes to your finger when you touch it. Well, this was kind of just the opposite. When it hit him in the face, it broke out and went all different directions into them. They would drop over dead. Now, the plasma, now, the rifle that we used, now this was shown and talked about into our second briefing. Now, the plasma rifle, it was just like glass, crystal clear. And we were told that once we learned how to fire it, nobody else could fire it. It was like it became part of you. It was almost like it was alive. And if you sat it down, you better remember where you sat it, because once you set it down, and if you didn't remember where you'd never find it. And we was told they were made this way because they didn't want them other extraterrestrials that was going to invade. They didn't want them to have the technology. So why they was so clear is if they stepped on them, they would just shatter like glass. And they were not light. They were, the barrel part of it was quite heavy. Now, what it looked like was like a U-tube where the plasma, it would start at the bottom. It would be a bright red color. It'd go up the tube, start in the bend. As it come up the tube, it would start to lose its color. And as it come up the bend, got halfway in the bend, it would change from red to blue. And as it was going up it would be a light blue and turn to just before it came out, a real bright blue ball. It was only about the size of maybe a tennis ball. And that's what we killed them with. That was the weapon we used. And our commanding officer told us they were just on loan. And anyways, we stopped them, but to get to where we was going to get them, we had to intercept them on an asteroid. Now, our commanding officer told us this group of 5 extraterrestrials that was watching when you did your test for fear, they gave us all the intel. They knew where they was, when they was coming, what planet they was going to go first to, and everything. And he told us what they was going to do is this advanced group was going to land on an asteroid. An asteroid that was going to go like close to the first planet. Then they was smaller ship would jump off, and what their plan was that if they was detected, it would be like a chunk of that asteroid broke apart and went to the planet. That was their plan. Or that's what our commanding officer told us. Well, I guess, I mean, there's so much more that I guess if anybody wants to know, they just have to ask questions about it. But anyways, that's what happened in my abduction. I was drafted into a secret space program along with 19 other people, all 16 years old. Now, that's not jumping from the frying pan into the fire. That's being thrown into the fire. Okay, I guess I'm done. All of this happening to me now, I mean, if anybody wants to give me hypnosis or even truth serum to know that I'm telling the truth, I ain't making this story up. They want to pay for it, get me there, do whatever, pay for it. I would do it. Now, what got me though is now when I died and I was out of the body, what I was. Now I'll send you through Facebook. I'll send you a picture of what I was. Now I'll tell you this. Now the eyes, I have the eyes are red, but I don't know what color the eyes were because I didn't see them. But they weren't red. I just put red so to show the location from where I was seeing from. Now I know I'm not the only one of that has one of these in them. Now I can't say if you have it in you, but I know I read an article in what was it, New York Times or something magazine. A famous plastic surgeon from California. He had been in a coma for a month and he was out of his body. And my jaw hit, like I said, hit the table when his drawing was the exact same thing what I was. And he said he shape-shifted into a butterfly and his counterpart, well, they both shape-shifted into a butterfly. Now, I believe that everybody, we don't have a soul. I mean, you can call it a soul, but I think we have an interdimensional being in us. They use us for a vessel. Now, you might think, can you ask me why do I think that? Well, okay, because once you see my picture, you might understand a little better. My poor Windows drawing. Now, when I was out, I had three feelings. Okay, love, no hate. Now, that's the only feelings that type of entity that's in me has. In other words, they can't smell a flower. They can't smell food cooking. They can't touch anything. They don't own anything. They don't know what it's to be angry, jealous, what it's like to swim in water, what it's like to taste food, or see in color like we do. Because when I was out, I didn't see in color. It was more of a black or a grayish color, and I don't know, but I couldn't see in color. They are not capable of that in their dimension, but they can. One thing they can do, we can't do, is shape shift. They can go through walls and stuff, and gravity does not affect them. But yeah, that's why they're here, because they can't. And the third dimension has something that they don't have, and they come here to experience it. Now, I'm going to tell you something. This is the first person I told like this. I did have. They say that we have missions. People, their soul, they have missions when they come here. They agree on it in a contract. Now, I know I had two missions. One was part of that secret space thing, and the other one was, I didn't go through with it. Me, the person, couldn't do it. But you know who Barack Obama is? Well, I was told that before he even became president, even before he got nominated, that if he got elected president, things would go to hell, especially in America. And they did. but also I was supposed to assassinate him before he was nominated to run for president. Now, I've only told my brothers and very close friends this. I didn't do it, and I paid a price. I'm not going to tell you what the price is, but I did pay a price. After that, when I found out what happened to me in my abductions, now I don't know why they came back. I mean, if they wouldn't have come back and given me my memory back, I would have never figured it out. I mean, I come to the conclusion I knew I was abducted, but I didn't know all the ifs and what about it. I mean, I just knew I was abducted. Now, why they came back and gave me, because our commanding officer in our first briefing told us that extraterrestrials, in fact, it was the one that gave me my memory back, they would erase our memories and we would not remember one thing about it. So I don't know why they came back and gave me my memory. And also another thing is, now, when I was dying out of the body, and I was showing that extraterrestrial, the image of it, and told so you would not be afraid, whatever type of entity I have in me, interdimensional beings, they must be able to see into our future. Because how did they know I was going to be abducted? And not just like, a day or two later, but years later. How did they know? I mean, they showed it to me and they told me, so you will not be afraid. But the message wasn't for my inner self. It was for me, the human. But how did they know? Are we in a simulator? Are we a written program? Our life is written out for us already? Because, I mean, that is more interesting to me than the rest of it. Is what I know when I was out of the I call it the vessel. I mean, is now I don't believe, as in the Bible says, God. In the Bible, God, it was not God, it was God's person that wrote the Bible, changed words in there. And it says, even has it in the 7 tablets of creation, that we were made by extraterrestrials. They came from beyond Orion's belt. There was, and Anunnaki does not mean one race of aliens. It means a bunch of different ones. They say we was made for, here's another one. Adam and Eve was not Adam and Eve. It was Adams, an S on there, plural, and Eves. What they were was the first humans that were able to have children. The Adams were able to get a woman pregnant, and the Eves were women that could get pregnant. There was other people in the Garden of Eden, but they were like a mule. They were sterile. They couldn't have children. What happened was, so they say, the Anunnaki women got tired of being, like surrogate mothers, so they had to come up with a way to make slaves, us, reproduce by themselves. Is that the case why we was made? Or sometimes I wonder if we was made to be a vessel for these other beings from other dimensions. Because like I said, in the 3rd dimension, like the being that I am, it has no arm, it has no mouth, it has no ears, it has no legs, no feet, no mouth, it doesn't breathe. It's just pure energy. So sometimes I wonder if that, or is it just we are made for so they can use us. See, it's a little more, I think, complicated jumping body to body. It's a little more complicated that. I think what it is, now why I know what my inner self knows is because when I died, I mean, you may have heard stories about it when people say they do that with leave their body, astral project or whatever it is. A lot of them will tell you about this white cord they see, the silver cord, there is a bond between the vessel and your inner self. And the only way you can really know about yourself, inner self, if that bond is broke. And like I said, I didn't want to go back into myself. I wanted to go back because the vessel was too small for me. Which now that brings up a thing about adolescent children, is maybe that's why they behave so bad, because their inner self is cramped in their body. Now I think about that sometimes. Now, but for you to know like what I know, what it knows, that bond has to be broke. And when it was forced to go back into me, I don't know if that bond reconnected or not. Because if it did, I don't think I would have remembered. I don't know, and I don't want to go through dying again. Because I was made to die. I mean, I would go outside. My mother would dress me. I didn't tell everything because you said only like an hour, and it's longer. But when I died, or when I was made to die, my mother used to dress me up, put everything on me, my coat, it up, my mittens and goulashes. They were boots that went over shoes, and they buckle them in the front. She'd tell me, "No, Junior, you go outside." She used to call me Junior. That's what she called me when I was younger. Don't unzip your coat, take your mittens off, get your boots done so you get your feet wet. Well, I'd go outdoors. I'd hear this soft little voice in my head. It would tell me to unzip my coat, take my mittens off, and unbuckle my boots. That's why I knew I was made to die. And I don't know if it was my inner self telling me to do this, or who was telling me. Like I heard, and it's the same way. Now I had two aunts that were quite religious. They went to church every Sunday, and they had one had 3 kids and one had 2. They were all older than me. My mother was the youngest of 13 kids, or 14. She was number 14. But she had 10 sisters and 3 brothers. So I was made to go to church, and when I go in there and listen to the minister, whoever it was, giving a sermon, talking about like Jesus and God and all this stuff, I hear that same little voice in my head telling me that's not the way it was. It's not how it was. That's why part of the reason I don't believe what the Bible says. It's been altered. Now, I'm not saying there's a God. Something made all of this. I don't know what, but he don't care what we do to each other. We could kill all ourselves off, and he wouldn't care. He wouldn't stop it. The stories of Jesus or his mother, there was stories of her, the light and stuff like that, of abduction. She was being abducted. If Jesus was anything, if he was a real, he was part human, part extraterrestrial. He was a hybrid, but he was not the son of God. Probably nobody will believe it. That's all right. I get plenty of that. I'm not doing this for money. I would not sell it, this information. I mean, I don't care if somebody come up and said, I would give you $10 million to write a book about this. I would not do it. I think it's too valuable for people to realize that the governments of the world are buffaloing us. I know they know about extraterrestrials, because our CEO, he was from the Pentagon. They know, but money and power rules everything. Okay, that's all I got to say.